trades. In the NHL, trades are usually done to make a team get better, get stacked, retool, rebuild, and help them make a deep playoff run. But in this scenario, a trade went completely wrong for one side and was considered the best deal in a lifetime for the other side. So, this is probably the worst trade the Chicago Blackhawks have made from what I've seen. Don't get me wrong, there are plenty of them, and I'm sad to say it, there are plenty of trades the Hawks have made which make me feel sick. And the reason is because they're just the way they're throwing away their talent, and that's why they're in the position they are in today, where they're stuck and they have to retool and try to redraft a team like they did with Taves, Kane, Keith, and Seabrook, and so on and so forth. So this trade, the Hawks would give away Teuvo Teravainen. So we're going to give more details about him later. Brian Bickle, and the Hawks would acquire a second-round pick in 2016 and a third-round pick in 2017. Okay, nothing too startling. Let's get a bit of a reason why this trade happened. So the Hawks had a deep run. They won the Cup in 2015. In 2015-16, they lost in the first round 7 games to the St. Louis Blues. They were having cap issues. Typical. The team was so stacked. They had issues. They had too many players with too big contracts. The point of this trade was a cap dump. Brian Bickle was on a $6 million contract, and he was nowhere near himself. He had MS, and that affected his play completely. He was nowhere near the same he was back in 2013, say, where he was using his big body as a power forward. So the Hawks wanted to trade away Bickle, but in order to do so, they had to get rid of a player that would make the deal more interesting for Carolina, and that was Teravainen, a young player the Hawks drafted in the first round, 18th overall. So, my thoughts on this trade, first of all, it doesn't look terrible to begin with. It's not like you're having a McDavid going away for a 7th round pick. It's not like it's a wide eye-opener. But now, when you look at the trade, it's awful in terms of how the Hawks lost such a good player. So, Teravainen helped the Hawks make a run in the 2014-15 playoffs where he had 18 games played, 4 goals, 6 assists for 10 points. So that looks already good there. So in 13-14 and 14-15, he had terrible seasons. He didn't stand out at all. He was in the minors, rotating from back and forth. But in 2015-16 with the Hawks is when we started to notice that he had some potential. This is why Carolina took him to begin with. He had 78 games, 13 goals, 22 assists for 35 points. So he's not a star player, but he's up there. He's definitely in the lineup. So once the Hawks traded him away, it's when the instant regret came. I know they had to get rid of the cap room. I know they had no choice, but I think there could have been a better way, to keep Teravainen. Because right after 16-17, Teravainen had 81 games played, 15 goals, 27 assists, 42 points. So he's already a top 6 guy, basically, because Carolina was not a good team. Carolina now, today, is a very good team. And the year after that, we would see the Hawks messed up bad. In 2017-18, the Hawks were a terrible team, one of the worst in the league. And Teravainen, of course, this is when he broke out. 82 games played, 23 goals, 41 assists, 64 points. This is when Teravainen started to become that top player for the Carolina Hurricanes, getting more and more ice time. And what went wrong? The Hawks weren't thinking clearly. And this is specifically on Stan Bowman. He's currently gone, but the amount of moves Stan Bowman made that affected the roster for the Hawks is insane. The amount of bad moves, and I'm going to make more videos, guys, on the trades the Hawks have made that have been just so bad. There's the Philip Deneau trade for Dale Weiss. The list goes on. The Brandon Saw trade 3 times. Getting rid of Panarin. There's numerous of them. The Seth Jones trade, it never ends. And the Hawks just now look back at this and say, well, we fucked up. In 2018-19, 82 games played for Teravainen. He had 21 goals, 55 assists, 76 points, and was a plus 30. That is top-tier caliber right there for Carolina. Almost a point per game guy. To think that. And the Hawks would get just a 2nd and 3rd round pick. Measly 2nd and 3rd round pick for that. So, and what did those picks become? Nothing. Those players are nobodies. So, you basically traded away a top 6 guy for nothing. And it hurts. I hate to say it, but it's what they basically did. And then following that year, he had an injury, and then he came back and bounced back, having 77 games played, 22 goals, 43 assists, 65 points. So again, top player for Carolina. Carolina been making some moves, making some runs. They're a better team now. They're just looking to make that run for the cup now. Hawks now currently are in a terrible position, as you know, and this does not help. If they had Teravainen on the roster, Teravainen would be still a top 6 guy. And it's not like it was a complete change, because Teravainen still had it in him with Chicago. He had a 35-point season with them in 70 games. He just needed more time to develop and grow to be a better player. So if the Hawks did keep him, Teravainen would have mounted out to be that top player. I don't know if he would have been as good, because the Hawks, would have not given him as much ice time at the time, because they were a stacked team still. But nonetheless, Teravainen definitely being traded away like that for basically nothing was a terrible move for Chicago. This is why it was probably the worst trade I've seen from the Hawks and Stan Bowman in the decade.